everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Best Day Ever podcast. This is a podcast about crafting and my adventures into crafting, my journey into crafting, but it's also where we celebrate with you why every day spent crafting makes for the best day ever. My name is Trisha, and I'm your host. I can be found on Instagram and Ravelry as Tie-Dye Diva, and show notes can be found in the description box below each video for each episode. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. And if you are a new viewer, an extra special welcome to you. I really had hoped to be able to record another podcast a lot sooner than this, but it's been pretty hectic in life, very, very busy at work, which has left me physically and emotionally drained, to be quite honest. And I have had a lot of evenings where I wanted to come home and record, but have just been too wiped out to do it. So I am finally feeling refreshed, and because it's been so long, that just means I have a lot of wonderful things to share with you today that I hope you will enjoy. So I hope you are relaxed and maybe have a refreshing beverage with you, and maybe you're crafting, perhaps you're knitting or crochet or cross stitch, or you're at your sewing machine, and I hope you enjoy the things I have to share with you today. Before we get started into the podcast, I do have a little bit of business to take care of. The first item is that we are going to draw a number. Well, I've already drawn the number for the very first giveaway for the podcast. So the way the giveaways work in the podcast is that you just have to go on to the Ravelry group, which is also named the Best Day Ever Crafting Podcast Ravelry group, and just share with us what is it you're excited about in your crafting world, your best day ever moments. So today we're going to announced the winner for the month of March. I used randomnumbergenerator.org, and it chose number 4. We chose names from the Ravelry group as well as the YouTube channel. Anyone who left a comment about what they were excited about, what their best day ever moments was. And the random number chose number 4, which is Sandy. Sandy lives in Washington State, and Sandy also happens to be a very dear friend of mine. So I was very excited to know that Sandy was the winner of last month's giveaway. So let me just remind you, Sandy, what you're going to get. So you're going to receive this beautiful skein of Fiber Story sock. It's a beautiful purple color, very springy. Also a skein of sugar and cream for making some dishcloths. A Susan Bates handy tool, because these are just wonderful to have in your project bag. Let's see here. You're also going to receive this beautiful wrist ruler. It is the medium brown color, and these are just awesome. It's a bracelet, but it's also a ruler. So that's pretty awesome. And I think that's it. Yeah. I think everything else, oh yes, and the pair of scissors. So this is just a wonderful gift. Most of these things were donated by other viewers of the podcast, and I've had a couple of people actually reach out to me on Ravelry offering to donate a prize to the podcast. So was very kind and generous of them. So if you are a maker, and maybe you have an online presence, an Etsy store, or you're starting up a fiber business and you would like to sponsor a giveaway for a podcast episode, feel free to send me a message on Instagram or on Ravelry, and yes, I would be more than happy to sponsor, to use you as a sponsor for a podcast giveaway. So going forward, as I announced on the last episode, you just have to share in the Ravelry group what you're excited about when it comes to your crafting world. Just leave a message there in the Ravelry group, and you can be entered into the April drawing, in which we have another month for submissions in April. And this is what the prize is for the month of April. From my stash, I decided to offer this beautiful skein of PATONS Feels sock, and I believe this is an 80-20. Yes, this is an 80% merino, 20% nylon blend, and it's absolutely beautiful. I chose this because it just reminds me of spring. It's got some beautiful speckles of blue and purple, and the color is Lily Pad. Yes, Lily Pad. It's 400 yards. It's absolutely beautiful. So that, and you can also choose from either of these progress markers. One is a spinning wheel progress marker, and the other you can choose from, which actually matches the skein of yarn, is this cute little silver sweater on knitting needles with a purple bead on the stitch marker. So these are both progress keepers, and I love using progress keepers because they do what they're supposed to. Just helps you keep tabs on your progress. And I'm going to include this Ravelry project bag with it as well. So yeah, just head on over to the Ravelry group and join with the others who are just sharing what they're happy about in their crafting world. So we will announce a winner in the month of May, hopefully not a month away. When I first decided to record, to start a podcast, I imagined that I would record at least once a month. And now I'm realizing that I probably should be recording more often than that, at least maybe every 3 weeks, for lots of reasons. But the main reason is because there's just so much to share. When you're doing a lot and you're experimenting and dabbling in several different crafts, there's just a lot of things you want to share, and you don't want to feel pressed to just pile it into just one episode. So yes, I do intend to record a lot more often going forward, life permitting, right? So let's get started with the podcast. Why don't I just let you know what sweater I'm wearing today. This is, I probably should adjust the camera so that you can, oops, so sorry, see this a lot better. This is the lipstick sweater by Locatelli, and I'm going to insert a picture of the actual pattern right here. I knit this, several years ago, maybe about 4 years ago, and I knit it in Madelinetosh Vintage in the color Tart, and I used a US 7 as well as a US 8 needle for the sweater. I only had 5 skeins. This sweater was designed to be a 3/4 sleeve sweater, I believe, but I only had enough to do short sleeves. As with Joji's patterns, the construction was very interesting. Let me see if I can remember. It started at the top, and the top was knit first on both. Let me not even try to remember how it was constructed. It was a very interesting construction, very simple and easy to follow, though, just like all of Joji's patterns, which is why I actually absolutely love her designs. Very simple and easy to follow. I'm not sure if the buttons were to go all the way down, but I'm going to stand up so that you can see where I stopped my buttons at for my sweater. There's one more that could actually be buttoned right here. So you've got some reverse stockinette panels on each side, stockinette stitch for the others. I love this little detail here, which was a twisted stockinette just for that particular stitch, so that adds a lot of interest. These buttons I picked up from G Street Fabrics. You're going to hear a lot about G Street Fabrics on this podcast. It is a local fabric store to the area, and they have the best button collection. So I love their just little granulated buttons there, and it's hitting at about my hip, the top of my hip, and you see this interesting pattern here, which I believe was a twisted rib, which was very fun to do. Very simple and easy pattern, and I think I said the color is tart. Yep, so this is what I am wearing, and I have a little asymmetric tank top on with it, along with a pair of leggings, the leggings that I actually made, that I will tell you about shortly. So let me get situated in this chair again. Okay, so yep, so that's what I'm wearing. If you want more details, I try to keep my Ravelry page pretty up to date, so you can get some more details about the project on my Ravelry page. And I'm going to bring the camera in just a little bit more. Okay, so let's move on into some finished projects. So the first thing I want to show you are some dish towels that I finished. As I told you before, am participating in the Yarn Hoarder Dishcloth Challenge, so I completed a couple of dishcloths. I decided that since I'm not new to crochet, but I do think that my knitting skills are a lot better than my crochet skills. So I decided, since I really want to improve on my crochet, let me just do a simple single crochet dish towel. I'm calling these dish towels because I just knit them till I ran out of yarn. I don't think I had full skeins for either of these, but I really like the way they turned out. I chained 25 and just did single crochet all the way down. And what's so great about this and practicing my crochet is that you know immediately if you're counting for each row if you've gone off some kind of way. But I did pretty good. I think I stuck to 25 single crochet for each row because they're nice and even. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So I should be able to complete a couple more either this weekend or next week, and I'll be on track for the month of April for the dishcloth challenge. So that's some stitches in crochet. I was also able to complete a pair of socks. I'm not sure if I showed these on the last podcast, but I've been working on these socks for about probably about 4 weeks now. This is just a basic vanilla sock, and they were knit from the cuff down. And I started out with the German twisted cast on, which is my favorite cast on as of late. And I did a 1x1 rib. I believe this is a twisted rib. No, this is not a twisted rib. This is a broken rib. So it's knit 1, purl 1, knit the second row. Knit 1, purl 1 on the first row, knit the second row, which creates the broken rib pattern. And I kind of like that, and it does give quite a bit of stretch, just enough stretch that you need. I knit these with PATONS KROY sock, which is, I consider this to be a bargain sock yarn compared to the some hand-dyed skeins that you can buy, and you can get this at your Michaels, AC Moore, and possibly even Joann Fabrics. No, I don't think I've seen it at Walmart. It runs about $6 per skein, and they're about 50 grams in each skein. So that's a real steal. And if you have a coupon, it's an even better steal. That 50% off coupon. So I just knit them until I went into my usual afterthought heel. So basically I'm knitting a tube, and then I come back and do the afterthought heel, which I absolutely love. Yep, that's what it looks like on this side. I'm going to link to a video that I just discovered. Actually, if you watch the Happy Knits podcast, which is hosted by Yolanda, and she always has her cute little son, Jordan, I believe his name is, by her side as she's podcasting. She did an excellent tutorial on doing the afterthought heel. And what I loved about that tutorial is that she didn't do a lot of editing to it. When you do an afterthought heel, there are some issues that you can run into with that afterthought heel, and she makes the mistakes, honestly does not cut it out, tells you how to fix the mistakes. And on the second sock that she did, it actually turned out without having a lot of mistakes. But I just love the honesty in that video, and I'm going to link to it. So if you're at all interested in doing an afterthought heel on a sock, then that's just one of the many great tutorials. And that's what I love about the afterthought heel, because there you just have no stitches to pick up, nice and clean join there. So I just love it. This is, I think I said these are going to be a gift for a friend who is going to be moving out to Detroit very soon, and I know that they have some really harsh winters there, and I just thought it would be a good gesture to knit him at least one pair of hand knit socks to keep him nice and warm as he goes on his new assignment. He does a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, he's dedicated his life to doing volunteer work, and a lot of his work is done out of doors. And so yeah, this is actually my very first pair of hand knit socks as a gift, besides the ones I've knit for my husband and sons. So I got a lot of joy out of making these, and I hope that he gets just as much joy out of wearing them. So that's it. I think that's all I have to say about these. I'm gonna gift those with a few warm hats as well. That'll go into his going away care package. So my last finished object I want to share with you is one that I'm extremely excited about, and it is my Sky's the Limit shawl. This is a Plucky Knitter design, and it's basically a long wrap shawl that's knit on the bias with sections of stockinette stitch, sections of textured stitching, and it ends in a beautiful mesh lace pattern. So let me show that to you. I got so much joy out of knitting this shawl. This was actually the cast on edge, and as you can see, it's so huge. I'm just gonna put a portion of it over my neck. So this was the cast on portion, and as you can see, it's knit on the bias, and then you go into a stockinette portion, and this, I believe this was a one-hit wonder color, which means that it doesn't have a name. You can see the beautiful texture there, very simple pattern. This color here was small batch number 1 in Snug Worsted. Snug Worsted is by far my most favorite yarn base ever. It is so soft and squishy and such a joy to work with. And look at those beautiful speckles. You've got some golds and greens and blues, pinks. So pretty. The next section was supposed to be garter stitch, but I decided to mix it up a little bit and make this section stripes of stockinette instead of garter. And this color is CC Bloom, and the gold is also a one-hit wonder color. And there's that gray again in that same beautiful textured stitch. And here we have some stripes of garter stitch in those same colors, and then we end in this beautiful mesh lace pattern. So I love this wrap. This is my jam. These are the things I love to knit, because you can use them in the winter. They're good in the summer if you're at a restaurant and you need something just to keep you warm. I've got the AC going today. It's a beautiful day in the DMV. It's probably close to 80 degrees outside. And when I left out this morning at about 7 a.m. to do my usual weekend errands and assignments, it was really, really chilly. But it turned out to be a beautiful day. But even on a day like today, like I'm about to run back out and run some more errands, and I think it's going to get a little chillier later tonight. So this would be perfect just to carry with you, to keep in the car, to have something to keep you nice and warm. I absolutely adore this shawl, and I'm already thinking about the next one that I want to make. And it smells divine, as well as the socks. I have talked so many times about Tuft Woolens and how much I love her sock soap. I'm going to try to insert a picture here of what the sock soap looks like. It's basically a bar of soap, and it's got essential oils and natural scent, and you just lather it up and get a nice little lather in your water, and you soak your hand knits in there. And when you use Tuft Woolens, it scents not just the room you're soaking your hand knits in, it just scents the whole house. But not that sickening perfumey scent. It's just so natural and so pleasant, and I just love Martha's product. And I'm looking forward to meeting her at Maryland Sheep and Wool next weekend, which is coming up, which I will tell you a little bit about, hopefully towards the end, if I don't forget or if we don't run out of time. So yeah, that's it for finished projects. Let's talk about a few whips. When I finish a sock, I like to get another sock immediately on the needles. And no, I didn't talk about these because I'm not sure if I had these cast on. But this is another vanilla sock, and these are going to be for yours truly. Look at the beautiful stripes in this sock. I just want you to just really look at that. Do you see how the blues and the purples are almost like gradiating into each other? This is So Perfect Pearls. I believe this is the pearl sock. And this is from the So Perfect Pearls Etsy store of Jade, who also hosts the So Perfect Pearls podcast. She's a new indie dyer, and I'm just amazed by her skills. So definitely check out her Etsy shop as well as her very cheery podcast. I absolutely love her delivery. So I'm really looking forward to knitting these. Not sure how long I'm going to make them, but I'll figure that out as I go along. And these are hanging out in a Freckled Whimsy project bag. I think that's all I have to say about those. Yeah. The next work in progress, I have some mixed emotions about. It's a sweater that I cast on. Remember, if you watched episode 1, I kind of told you what my game plan is sort of like when it comes to my crafting. I like to always have a sweater on the needles. I like to have a shawl, usually a pretty large shawl on the needles, a pair of socks, and a long-term project. My long-term project is my sock yarn blanket, and so this is the current sweater that I have on the needles. This is Ujo by Honest Strick. I believe I'm saying that correct. I'm going to link to it right below me. And basically, Ujo is a top-down raglan fingering weight sweater. This is the front of the sweater. Here, where I have that stitch marker. Yep. And not a whole lot to say about this sweater. I'm knitting this in Host Garn yarn. This is a brand new to me yarn, and a couple of issues I'm having, and so I'm not sure where I'm gonna go with this. So I swatched for this sweater, which is a miracle in and of itself. I don't like swatching. I'll admit, I don't enjoy it, but I know it's a necessary. Even if you are knitting a top-down sweater and you're familiar with knitting top-down sweaters, I will be honest, most of the time I do not swatch for my top-down sweaters, especially if it's in a yarn that I've knit before and I know how it's going to knit up. But like I said, this is a new to me yarn, so I felt it was necessary to swatch for it because, for one, I wanted to make sure I could get gauge. And another reason is because I wanted to see how this yarn would behave after it was swatched and knit up. So here's the swatch. feels pretty good for a summer sweater that has some wool in it. And this yarn is, it's a wool and cotton blend, 55% wool, 45% cotton. And this is the Host Garn Coast. There's the label, there's the yarn, and you can see how this is amazingly soft. This is my problem. I also have this yarn, and I had one skein of the same color, but in a different base. This is a 100% wool base. It's called the Super Soft Base, and you probably can't tell, but this texture is a lot different from this texture. I don't know whether this is even going to pick up the sound. It's got a bit of a crunch to it, whereas this is a lot softer. So I swatched with the Host Garn, but in my haste to get the sweater cast on, I actually cast on with the Super Soft Wool, and I didn't realize it until I had gotten quite a ways going in this sweater. And I'm knitting this sweater on a size US 3 needle, which I think is a 2.5 millimeter, using my zings, and that's a lot of knitting. So when I realized I had started the sweater with the wrong base, I said, okay, there's no way in the world I'm going to start this sweater over. So what I did was I immediately started striping, not striping, but alternating skeins with the correct yarn. And you can actually see it really good. So this is not what I had intended with this sweater. I had intended to have a sweater that was just orange and very lightweight to wear for the summer. And because I only have one skein of the Super Soft, I can't continue this striping throughout the whole sweater. The remainder of the sweater is eventually going to be all of the lighter orange, which is the Coast. I hope all those ramblings made sense, but the dilemma I'm in is, do I want to continue with this sweater, or do I want to frog it and start over, or just knit something completely different? The pattern is very well written with some interesting increases. So I don't know. I'm enjoying the yarn. It is very different from anything else I've ever knit with. It's very thin, but as you can see from the swatch, it blooms beautifully when it's washed. So I don't know. I've got some thinking to do. If you have any thoughts about what I should do, then I would be very interested to hearing them. I'm not a huge perfectionist when it comes to my projects, but for some reason this one is bugging me. So I need to take it outside and look at it in the light, or maybe knit a little bit more, maybe till I get to the sleeve separation, and try it on and see what it looks like. And this is hanging out in this cute little project bag that was made by my good friend Arthella Eris Knits, because I love shoes. It's a perfect sweater bag. I think that's all I have to say about that work in progress. So we'll see where this goes. So let's move on into some sewing talk. The last time we talked, I shared with you that I had the goal of knitting a pair of leggings, and I'm very happy to let you know that it was a complete success. I'm wearing them right now, but I can't figure out a way to show them to you live, so I'm going to try to insert a picture right here. I absolutely love these leggings. They are so comfortable. I drafted my own pattern from a pair of leggings that I already had that fit really, really well. And I used some craft paper that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I just traced out the leggings from the pair that fit really, really well onto the craft paper. Put my seam allowance in, put my hem allowance in, and I actually sewed them by using the serger. This was my very first time using my serger. Sergers are wonderful. If you are a prolific sewer, you probably already know that. I personally had to be convinced of it. I have had my serger for about a year and a half. There she is. Love her so much. It's a Brother 1034D, very affordable. But I was so intimidated with learning how to thread it and then using it, but I absolutely love it now. I figured out how to thread it. It is so fast, it is so smooth, it is so wonderful, and I'm not afraid of knits anymore. I love it. I'm just so happy that I just got over that fear of using the serger and just did it. So I'm going to take these leggings for a spin later on. I'm about to go out and run some more errands. Going to run around Home Depot and pick up some things we need for the garden, and I will report back to you in a couple of weeks to let you know how they fit, how they feel, and how they're holding up. So yep, the leggings are complete. I don't think I have anything else in sewing. Well, I will share with you what I intend to sew next. Yes, okay. So last year, towards the end of the summer, there was, for some reason, I was on this gingham kick. This either navy blue and white gingham or black and white gingham print. I just had in my mind that I wanted a pair of cropped gingham not leggings, cropped pants. So I picked up this fabric from another one of our local fabric stores in Maryland. I believe it was in Crofton, Maryland, Tomorrow's Treasures. And I picked up this beautiful gingham print. I believe it was in Crofton, Maryland, Tomorrow's Treasures. And I picked up this beautiful gingham print, but I never got around to making those leggings. So I am still on a gingham print. I would love to have these for this summer. So my goal, this is my next sewing goal, to make these pants. And the pattern that I'm going to use is a tried and true pattern that's already in my stash. It's a Simplicity 3506. I'm going to be making these pants, but I'm going to cut them off about 4 inches higher than what the pants called for. I've done this before on another pair of pants that I sewed, and it worked out really, really well. So hopefully with the next episode, I'll be able to show you a completed pair of gingham pants. And this cotton just feels absolutely amazing. There's no salvage to say who the maker is, but I can tell it's a really good quality. So I think I'm going to wash it up and get it ironed up and get these sewn up, and hope I can also include some pockets in these, because pockets make everything better. So let's move on into some quilting. I was able to complete a couple of quilting squares for the quilting bee that I belong to. If you'd like to know more about the quilting bee, then go to episode 2, because I go into a little bit more detail about what the quilting bee is. This is the book that we're using, though. It's The Modern Bee by Lindsay Connor. And the 2 squares that I have completed, I believe this one, spoiler alert for you ladies who might be watching who are in the quilting bee, I'm about to show the squares. So if you don't want to see them, then turn away now. So this is one square that I completed. I am so super proud of this square. I can even put this even closer to the camera because I just love this so much. So these are the colors that I believe this is for Oriana, who lives in the UK. No, this one is for Shaz. This is for Shaz, who lives in California. And she chose the Cordelia's Garden block. And she chose greens and purples and blues. These were all colors that I had in my fabric stash already, so that's a bonus because I didn't have to go shopping. And instead of using Kona white, she requested that we use low volume prints, which are prints that look white if you stand back, but when you get close up on them, you can tell that they do indeed have some print to them. So again, this is Cordelia's Garden block. And it's just amazing how even though it's 12 of us and we are choosing different colors, different prints in the same color scheme, when the quilts come together at the end of the B, or when you put all the blocks together at the end of the B, they just work. It's just absolutely amazing. I have not completed my quilt from the last quilting bee, but I hope to very soon, and I hope to be able to show that to you very soon. If I don't get the quilt done, at least I can show you the blocks that were sent to me. And this is another square that I completed. I believe this is the one that's going to Oriana. Oriana chose golds, oranges, and blues. And wouldn't you know it, I had lots of these colors in my stash because these are my colors. Oh my goodness. This is another one that I absolutely love. It turned out so good. And the name of this quilt is, I should know it because this is the one I chose too. Hold tight. The name of this particular block is called, it is called the Stacked Windmills quilt. So you see there, and again, this is the one I completed in the colors requested. I love this. I still consider myself to be very much the novice quilter. I have so much to learn, but it's getting better. With every quilt square that I make, I notice that my seaming is better, my 1/4 inch is becoming more precise, and it's so much fun. And I'm also amazed at how being a multi-crafter, it just has so many benefits because a lot of the principles of quilting apply with other crafts like knitting. Even though there's no gauge in quilting, not getting your seams to be the correct width, which is usually a 1/4 inch, can affect the whole size of your quilt block. So just learning how to be more precise in quilting, just as if you try to be more precise in getting gauge for a knitting project, it just helps you. I just think it just, how the crafts just interplay with one another, is just fascinating to me. So I had a lot of fun with those, and I need to complete, if I get one more quilt square done this week coming up, then I'll be all caught up, which is very, very exciting. So I'll get these sent off this week along with some other goodies to those gals. I'm very, very happy about that. I think that's all I have to share in my making. So let's talk about a few acquisitions. Moving on in and continuing, I should say, to talk about quilting, let me share with you some of the quilt blocks that I received. I've received 2. This particular one came all the way from the UK, I believe. Oriana sent this quilt square to me with the cutest little tag there. I think she hand drew that. And with the sweetest note, 2-page note as well. I hold on to all of these. Letter writing with pen and paper and pencil, it's such a lost, I don't know if I want to say art, I would say it's a gift. To take the time to handwrite a letter to someone, I think it's just so special, and I cherish those. So we do a lot of that too with our quilting bee, and I just absolutely love receiving those handwritten letters from the girls. It's just so wonderful. So as I mentioned, I also chose the Stacked Windmills quilt, and the colors that I chose were orange, navy, and gray, and aqua, because these are the colors that we are redecorating our bedroom in. And this square is absolutely beautiful. It's point on, dead on, exactly the colors that I'd hoped for. And so thank you, Oriana. And this one came from Shaz in California. Another beautiful square. So you see what I mean? How even though they're coming from different people, how they work together. You can already tell how this is going to work together. They're going to work together. So beautiful. Look at that print there. It's umbrellas. How gorgeous is that? So excited. And here's Shaz also sent a beautiful postcard, but I dropped it on the floor. And since I'm not the most graceful person, I'm not going to risk toppling over to get it. But this is also the handwritten note that she sent. Look at that little bee. I love. I cherish these little notes. This paper is actually fabric that you can run through your inkjet printer, or you can also write on it. I love that Shaz put a little bee on there for the quilting bee. So special. So I've received 2 so far. By the end of the year, I will have 12, and I will have a quilt to complete. So special. So that gives my husband an entire year to get the bedroom painted. He's probably gonna need it. He's a busy guy. He does his best, but our home projects seem to take forever because we're both so busy. That's just fine. Okay, so then let's move on into a couple of more acquisitions I would like to share with you. This is a skein of yarn that came into my possession. I have been recently watching a new to me podcast called A Wooden Nest. It is hosted by Lindsay, I believe her name is. I absolutely love her podcast. She just has the most warmest, calmest delivery. She's into a lot of, it seems to be into a lot of natural, holistic lifestyle. I believe she's raising chickens and does a lot of gardening. And she just recently opened an Etsy store where she is selling some yarn that has been naturally dyed. And for a city girl like me who that type of lifestyle is just so far removed from what I'm used to, because I work in the city of Washington, D.C. I live in a suburb of Washington, D.C. And I have to drive probably about a good 30 minutes before I see anything that resembles wide open spaces and farmland. I mean, we do some gardening and I try to do organic when I can, and I'm very much interested in learning more about a more holistic lifestyle, and I'm very slowly working my way towards that. But I'm just so fascinated with people who are living that life. It's just, I think it's just so beautiful. But anyway, getting back to her podcast. So, in conjunction with her podcast and another podcaster, I cannot think of the name of that podcaster, but Lindsay and the Wooden Nest podcast, she is hosting a natural dye knit along. And I believe the way it works is that you can either dye your own yarn naturally, or you can purchase yarn that has been naturally dyed and knitted up. And I believe the whole premise behind that is to become more familiar with natural dyeing, and to support those who are dyeing naturally. So that was really appealing to me. So I didn't have any naturally dyed skeins though. So I went online, I did a search, and this is a maker that came across my path. The name of her Etsy shop, maybe it's not an Etsy shop. Anyway, it's BUCKALOO View. BUCKALOO View, and I believe she also has a podcast. If that's so, I'm going to put it right below the screen here so you can see it. But this beautiful skein, which is 200 yards of worsted weight wool, was dyed with onion skins. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. That's just fascinating and amazing to me. It's a lot deeper in color than what I'm seeing on this screen. Let me see. I think if I hold it back, you can see. What if I put it against my sweater? Against my hair, maybe? I've got the window open. I probably should have left that window closed. That's, it's a bit brighter than this. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know what I'm going to make with it. Maybe a cowl, maybe a hat, but it's so wonderfully, beautifully soft and squishy. And I'm just so happy to have it in my stash. And I'm very excited to participate in this knit along. Speaking about the craft of natural dyeing has definitely piqued my interest, and you will be hearing a lot more about my adventures in natural dyeing. I have become a bit obsessed, and I've been doing some of my own experimenting in natural dye, and I'm very excited to share those with you. So thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming up with the idea, and thank you for inspiring us with your work and helping us, especially a city girl like me, to think outside the box and to think about things we have in our own pantries and refrigerators and backyards that can really be an asset in our crafting world. So I'm very excited to participate in this knit along with you. So that's that, and you'll hear more about that. And the final acquisition I want to share with you is this beautiful skein of plucky yarn that came in the mail. This camera is picking up the color dead on, spot on. This is probably this is one of my favorite colors in plucky. It's cornucopia, and it just reminds us of the beautiful fall harvest. This base is cachet, and it is 100% cashmere. Let that sink in just for a minute. And I wish there were fill-a-vision so you can feel how amazingly squishy, soft, and beautiful this skein is. I won this actually. The Plucky Knitter has a selfie contest. So you can hashtag, I think it's Plucky Selfie, on Instagram. And you can also, I believe she's also drawing prizes for the Daily Plucky prize, and I won. I'm not a big selfie person. I just think that, I don't know, selfies are for younger folks. I just always feel so silly when I do them. But I was, my husband were hanging out one Saturday, and I was like, take a selfie with me. I think I was wearing my camel sheet cowl. It was a really cold, blustery day, and I'm going to insert a picture of the winning selfie here. And so I was really happy and shocked on a Saturday morning when I got tagged that we had won. So I'm very excited about this, and who knows what this will become. But I'm very happy to add this to my stash. So thank you, Sarah. So excited about that. I think those are the only things I have to share with you today, and I'm really excited because I'm under an hour, so that's great. I think I've covered everything. So we've got our prize for the month of April. If you'd like, again, head over to the Ravelry group and share with us your best day ever moments as it relates to crafting. I just love hearing about those moments. And I just realized I don't think I shared with you what Sandy said about her best day ever moment. It was actually really beautiful. I have it right here. So Sandy says, so many best days ever. Watching my granddaughters knitting and sewing, seeing a newborn in a blanket you sewed or quilted, an older one with a lap blanket that you made for them. A gift from your hands is a gift of the heart. I never want to stop. That's beautiful, and that is really the spirit that I want to engender by means of this podcast. What is it that just warms your soul, warms your heart, or makes you so excited about your crafting? We want to hear from it. So please, again, join the Ravelry group and just let us know what it is you love about your crafting. If you are enjoying the podcast, don't forget to hit your like button and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. I do want to give a couple of podcast shout outs. I've already spoken about The Wooden Nest, who is hosted by Lindsay. Beautiful podcast, beautiful delivery, very inspiring. I've also come to know of another podcast by means of Lindsay, who mentioned it on her podcast, which is called The Green Bean. She's only recorded 3 episodes. If you love podcasts, highly recommend Katie's podcast, which is again called The Green Bean. It is a completely different format. It is brilliantly formatted, so enjoyable, very relaxing, calming delivery. I absolutely love it. So that's The Green Bean, hosted by Katie, and I believe she lives in the UK. If that's incorrect, I would definitely make the correction down here. And then 2 more. Amanda, who hosts Mandobug. I purchased some stitch markers from Amanda. Let me show you those real quick. That's what I forgot to share with you while showing you this sweater. I purchased some stitch markers from Amanda's Etsy shop before I even realized she had a podcast. I believe I saw Jade of So Perfect Pearls podcast with these on Instagram. As you can see, this is a coffee bean. And so this was a set of the Progress Keeper and coffee bean stitch markers. I love my coffee just as much as I love knitting. Well, maybe not just as much. Yeah, just as much. I'm a coffee junkie. So these were made by Amanda of the Mandobug Podcast. So Amanda also has a very charming friendly, warm delivery, and she knits as well as sews. And on her last episode, which she just recorded this week, I actually learned something. So I need to reach out to her to let her know how beneficial her podcast was. So, yeah, I'm going to try to do this at least on each episode. If there's a new to me podcast or a podcast I've been watching that has had some really good content, I'm going to let you know, because if it inspires me, then it probably will inspire you also. And then finally, I like to give a shout out to Kalisha, who is known as Nadira Tandi on Ravelry and Instagram, who is the host of the Quirky Monday podcast. Another very fun delivery. I really, really enjoyed her episode that she put out just yesterday, which was on a Friday. And you know, one thing I always forget to do is to tell you what day it is. Today, it is Saturday. It is Saturday, April 28th. And I was watching the Quirky Monday podcast yesterday, which was Friday. So, yeah, she's really funny and really charming. And I really enjoy her delivery. So, I do think that is finally all that I have to share with you. I hope that you have had just as much joy in your crafting as I have in the past couple of weeks. I do hope to see you again very, very soon in a couple of weeks with some more fun and interesting things for my crafting journey. But until then, keep enjoying what you do. And thank you again for joining me today. And I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.